stop, stick around, come through and dig the sound of the fly brown 6060 cycle. Who thought
Welcome to another exciting episode of Wind Down with Kev. We have another awesome guest lined up for you today. But before I introduce my awesome guest, I have to say thank you, and thank you again. Thank you to everybody that's tuning in to this podcast. Thank you to everybody that's watching the live stream, watching us on YouTube, and special thanks to all of you that have already hit the subscribe and notification button. But if you're watching this podcast and you haven't hit subscribe and notify yet, please do so now. Thank you. I appreciate it. We need you to keep this good action going. That being said, I also like to give a big shout out to my sponsors, Carol Media and Canopy Connect. Talk to them for all your social media and digital needs. They will take great care of you. That being said, today and today only, we have a wonderful guest. We have a guest coming to you from the Morningside Insurance Group in Sioux City, Iowa, representing the great states of Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota. This agent is a leader in his community. He's got an amazing background that I can't wait to get into. He's a husband, he's a dad, and he's an awesome Allstate agent. Social media, put those clap hand emojis together for Jake Stevenson. Jake, what's going on?
Oh, another day in insurance, Kevin. So helping people out, making sure we're covering some risks.
I love that. I love that answer, man. It is another day. I don't know about you, but I've never seen 2 days that were exactly the same.
Yeah, that is 100% the truth. And that's one of the reasons I love it.
Good stuff. Jake, I gave you the best introduction I could, but help me out a little bit. Tell people a little bit more about your background and tell me what you love about insurance.
Yeah, so this is 16 months into my insurance experience. Before this, I was a college wrestling coach. That's what I did. I was a head coach for 12 years. I was an assistant for 3 before that. And before that, I was a college athlete. So wrestled in college and yeah, just loved that experience. Had a phenomenal career. Got to connect with a ton of young men and help them, grow and on their journey. So that was a huge blessing. People ask me every day, do you miss it? And I absolutely do. But I don't miss all of it. I miss going to wrestling practice. I miss wrestling with the guys. And, but yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff that, when you get into it, you're like, I'm getting into it for the wrestling part of it, right? I'm getting into it for the athletes and to be a part of their lives and help them on their journey. But there's a lot more that goes into it than that, just like insurance as well. But yeah, I love that experience. Had a ton of fun doing that. Like I said, met a lot of great people. But I was getting to the point where realistically, my body did not want me to wrestle every day. It was like, hey, your neck is just completely destroyed and your knees are soon to follow. So I was wrestling less and just kind of was like, man, I love being on the mat. I love being with guys, but I can't do that as much as I want to. And my son was starting to wrestle, have 4 kids. So, his wrestling tournaments are always on the same time as my wrestling tournaments. So I was missing those, and that was really hard. So just, yeah, my wife and I decided it was time for me to look for something else. And I was blessed to find an Allstate agency that the owner was retiring, and it was about 3 blocks away from the college I was working at. So
nice.
I was like, I won't have to find a new route to work. That was a huge positive. And, I just loved the business he had built. He'd been an Allstate agent for 39 years, and I really valued, what he was able to give to people in the business that he'd built. One of my close friends was one of his insureds and had known him since college. So just those things really helped me make a decision to get into being an Allstate agency owner. And
I'm gonna jump in the game here. I am sure you have found a lot of parallels in wrestling with this business and wrestling on the mat. So I love sports. So let's talk wrestling for another minute before we get into the insurance stuff. Jake, very few, as a father of 4 children, few of the parents that are taking kids on this journey from youth sports and middle school sports. And the greatest wish for most parents in the world is that one day possibly they'll be on the varsity. But you went to the next level. You actually wrestled in college, and that's a very small percentage of athletes in every sport. So talk about the level of discipline you developed as a youth and a love for it. And how did you make that bridge from, being a student athlete to really being able to do it at a college level?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really transitioned for me when I got to college. When I was in high school, I was probably more dedicated than the average person, right? I did a lot of camps and, I did a lot of practice, did the summer work. But I wouldn't say, I didn't feel like, looking back, I don't feel like I got myself to a point where, I was distancing myself from other people that were good at wrestling and good in high school. But when I got to college, no one told me, hey, you should wrestle in college. It was really a decision I made, and I was super, super passionate about, like, I don't want my wrestling career to be over. And I had a coach that recruited me that I connected really well with, and like just getting to college and having that person in my corner, he really said, hey, I think you should do this. And I was always like, all right, I'm going to go do that. And so he kept pushing me to do more and, set higher goals. And so really it came down to when I had that coach that really started to push me harder and I was ready for that. That's when my dedication went to a new level, and, just my commitment level went to a new level. And so I really owe a lot of that to my coach and his guidance.
His name. Give him a big shout out. Let people know who he is.
His name's Tim Jagger, and he was a great mentor, and he's still a really good friend and somebody that I lean on a lot. So I'm super thankful for Tim and everything he did for me. And and it was a great, we really became just kind of partners in what we were trying to accomplish, right? I was the first recruiting class for him.
Excellent.
And so, like, we're kind of parallel. It's our first year. It was his first time coaching as a head coach, right? That was his first head coaching experience. So I was lucky enough to go on and be a 4-time All-American and a national champ. And I mean, it was just a blast doing it with him, and my assistant coach was Clint Kudum. So he was a big part of it too. He wrestled with me every day, but just those two guys, like, it was fun to accomplish that with them. And, like, I think about them being on the national championship stage with me, and, like, the best part about it, I loved winning, but it was also, like, the best part of it was seeing how pumped up they were. They got a coach and national champ.
When you lead people to a result and you see them achieve it, it actually feels more rewarding. And I think you can relate to it as someone who went on to become a coach yourself. So I had a feeling you were burying the headline. So we don't get to 4-time All-American to 8 minutes into the conversation. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're watching it on YouTube, and you're listening to the live stream, wherever you're checking it out at, can you please put some American flags in the chat to applaud him for being a 4-time All-American? He kind of buried the headline on me. He could have led with that, but no, that's just a little humility, and I appreciate that. And that's probably what took you a long way. Hey, DJ, what's up? I'm in the middle of recording the podcast.
I know, man.
No, yeah. So, this guy, we want to talk about something different. He's trying to get his website and his Google My Business page going.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody knows you helped me to get to the 2 Comma Club, and be seen by a couple of million people. But this person wants to do something different. They're trying to run ads to their book of business, their model line campaigns and stuff like that.
I know, Kev.
Oh, man. Well, DJ, talk to the people, man, so I can get back to the podcast. How can you help?
Yeah, man. So listen, I can help you by running monoline ads to your auto, your home, as well as optimizing your website, your Google business profile, and your social media outlets. We can do the exact same thing we've done for Kevin over the years and get you in front of millions of sets of eyeballs to help you grow your business. Contact Carroll Media today. Kev, let them know.
DJ, I appreciate you jumping in the podcast. Hit up Carroll Media. DJ, I gotta go. I gotta get back to the podcast.
I know.
Let's talk location and insurance. You're an agent. You're located in Sioux City, Iowa. Am I saying Sioux City right?
Yep.
Okay. But you also are present. You're licensed to do business in Nebraska and South Dakota. Do you have personal connections to all three places? I think I read that you were actually born in Nebraska. Talk to me about what that trifecta and give me a little bit of a geography lesson. I've been to Iowa a few times. I lived in Chicago for a season. Never been to Nebraska, never been to South Dakota. I think it's about 12 to 15 states in the country I haven't been to. Nebraska and South Dakota are two of them. So give me a little geography. Are these border states? Are they bumping up against each other?
Yeah. So we're the tri-state area. So you can be in Iowa, Nebraska, and South Dakota all within 5 minutes. So, I've lived in all three. My wife and I moved to Iowa 3 years ago from South Dakota, and it is a 15-minute drive to our old house. So, I mean, that's really the big reason that we do business in all three is because the Siouxland community is made up of North Sioux, South Sioux, and Sioux City. So, it's the reality of where we live. You have to be able to write in all three states. All the realtors are licensed in all three states. We're just in the tri-state community right on the Missouri River. And so that's kind of the reason that we're licensed in all three states is in this community you have to be.
Well, so thank you for bringing the Missouri River into the conversation. I know the parts of Iowa that I've been to, it's flat land. You start coming in, it's pretty flat across, but I know the Missouri River brings some natural disaster challenges with it. So I've been asking everyone about natural disasters that impact your area. So I thought we'd be talking about windstorms and maybe tornadoes, but what challenges does it bring to people that are bordering the Missouri River? Does it show up sometime and want to leave the river and come into people's homes?
Oh, yeah. I mean, since I've lived here, so I moved here in 2004, we've had two major floods, one from the Missouri and one from the Big Sioux, which falls into the Missouri right in Sioux City. And yeah, I mean, it's becoming a bigger challenge and a bigger risk. So the big thing is just educating people on a flood policy, right? And it's something that is extremely important to educate them because flood insurance is separate from a homeowner's policy, right? So they need to know that. They need to know it's a separate policy. It comes with its own premium. They need to know that a large percentage of the people that are impacted by floods are not in a flood zone. And that is super scary to people because they don't realize that. So the education part is the biggest for us around here is we really want to educate them and make sure they're aware of the risk that the Missouri, it's beautiful. We love being by it, but it's also, comes with some risks. So people in floodplains, again, like those are the people that typically know, right? Because their mortgage maybe requires it. It's the people not in the flood zone that we really, need to focus on educating. Like they still have a risk, even though they're not in that 100 or 500 year floodplain. And we had some insureds this last year that were impacted by the Big Sioux flood, and it was devastating. And it's, as an insurance agent, those are very difficult conversations when they didn't get flood insurance and now they're impacted by a flood.
You gave a great answer, and I'm blown away how easily you talk about it being 16 months into the industry. You just demonstrated like the highest level of awareness of not what people have to have, if car insurance is mandatory in the tri-state area where you work, but when it comes to the home insurance across the country, flood insurance is not automatically included. Two things not in any in any home insurance policy. There's no coverage for flood, and there's no life insurance to pay off the mortgage. But for you to be focused and fluent and conversational about that, is one of the reasons that I think it's so important to have a local agent in a local community. Because if with me, I'm in the business, I'm approaching my 38th year in the industry, 18th year as an agent. If I were to open a practice along the Missouri River, I don't know the lay of the land. So I might write a bunch of policies, but as soon as someone got hit by a flood, I'd be pretty surprised because I just don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and it's not just in Missouri too. It's that Big Sioux that that came out of its waters, and just understanding those risks, and around here we watch the snow caps out west and what their level is, because the more snow they've had in the winter, the bigger chance we have of having some flood risk here. So it's just stuff like that not that you should buy or cancel your flood policy based on how much snow they got in the mountains, but you do it's just like those are things that you're aware of when you live on the Missouri. And just an important part of, like you said, having a local agent. And just in the Midwest, like we get that a lot. Of the local agent part is super important, because wherever you're at, like your risks are local, right? It's not the United States is not risk the same, or it's not evaluated the same. So it's just important to understand those things.
No, you and I represent the same company, but the risks that are faced in your company is very different, and that's why people really have to have that local expertise. I would venture to guess that people choose to live by the Big Sioux in the Missouri because there's a bunch of outdoor activities that are conducive to the lifestyle, right? Well, you tell me, what are the outdoor activities that attract people to the area?
Yeah, I mean, boating is a huge part of it, right? As people love to boat on the Missouri, and then fishing, like that's a huge part of it too. They have a ton of fishing competitions on the weekend in the summer on the Missouri and the Big Sioux. So things like that are really important. There's a couple golf courses like right in that river valley kind of area, because it's beautiful having a golf course right along the river, right? I mean, you hit your drive and it might go into the Missouri, but it might hit the fairway. So, I mean, and they're beautiful and it's a great spot for it. And so people want to build their houses around that golf course too. But again, it just comes with that risk that you got to be aware of and protect yourself.
Work hard, play hard. So you mentioned 3 pretty safe sports that I'm comfortable with. Talk to me about the riskier stuff. Are you into whitewater rafting or any other stuff? Do we have some peaks and valleys where we're going down and being a little dangerous on the water?
Not me. No, all my dangerous activities left my life about 11 years ago. Probably maybe 8 months before I had my first child, I jumped out of a plane and my wife was like, "You're not doing that ever again." So, it's like once we had that kid, I don't drive a motorcycle. I don't jump out of planes anymore. I just try and make sure I don't ever, do anything too risky. Skiing, that's about the riskiest thing I do anymore is go snow skiing.
Jake, as a young man, jumping out of a plane was a bucket list item for me. I think Will Smith did it on his 50th birthday. I think he jumped out the plane as his way of celebrating it. But somewhere along the way, the youthful adventure in me, he died. My wife didn't have to tell me. He just died before I had a chance to do it. But kudos to you that you knocked that off your bucket list before you started. Hey, Ray, what's up? I'm in the middle of shooting a podcast here.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Nothing, man. I'm talking to a couple of my guys. They're struggling with all this new stuff, man. It's taking them 20, 30 minutes to fill out a quote sheet.
That's way too long, man. I think we can help.
You sure, man? They're trying to do different stuff. They're trying to do like X-Day campaigns. They're cross-selling. They want to follow with people they meet at networking events.
Yeah, well, Canopy Connect, you just send them a link. What is that? You can text it to them. You can put it on your business card as a QR code, scan that up, and all they have to do is click on that link, find their carrier, their insurance carrier, and sign into it. And we're gonna go in and grab all the information you need to get a quote, all their policy information, their deck pages, drivers, vehicles, and enrich that with property data. We get all that stuff, right? So you don't have to spend 30 minutes on the call. It's all easy.
Well, shut the front door. Enough said. Guys, you heard it right here. Stop going old school. Use Canopy Connect. Thanks, Ray. I got to get back to the podcast.
Got it. See you.
So I love the conversation that we're in. Looked at your background and I saw you guys do some farming. You got your own garden. Talk to me about the gardening part. I'm loving being in the Midwest with you. Talk to me about what you're growing and what you're doing there.
Yeah, my wife and I moved to an acreage about 3 years ago, and I grew up in small town, Nebraska. We went 45 minutes. We drove 45 minutes to shop, right? Town of 300 people. There was like one stop sign, not stoplight, stop sign, because you just knew your neighbor was coming down that road, right? So I grew up in a super small town and lived in a very rural community. So I really enjoy that stuff. So we moved to an acreage, and yeah, we love gardening. Big, we say like our garden is built to make tacos. So lettuce, tomatoes, onions, peppers. Those are kind of the things that we focus on, and salsa. So we love that. We have a couple cows. So we do our own composting with that stuff. And we enjoy that acreage life and having a big garden. Just growing our own produce and our own beef. So that's kind of, we're not like an Iowa farm, right? With 1,000 acres and a bunch of big tractors. We got a little Kubota tractor, but it's a good fit for us and our kids.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. I got a good friend, Allstate agent. I don't know if you know Mitch Happ, agent out of Nebraska.
Oh, yeah.
Mitch is my guy. We served on the committee together, and Mitch and I have had many Nebraska conversations. One day I will see it. But Mitch, I'm a 5 a.m. club guy. I'm up every morning. I think I do a lot for my life, but the work that Mitch talked about, the getting the cows done, getting the barn done, all that stuff before you even start in the insurance agency, that always blew me away. And then the real thing was the role of his kids in that process. His boys, they played baseball, but they did their fair share of work on the farm way before the school day and way before baseball started.
Yeah. And Mitch is the man. He's been a mentor to me. Super thankful for him and everything that he's educated me on in the insurance world. And he grew up in a super small town too. So I think him and I, grew up similarly. But my kids, we do all of our chores at night. I'm a 5 a.m. and do some insurance work type guy. And then when I get home, I love to go out there. And my daughter, this month is her month for taking care of the cows and the chickens. So when I get home, her and I walk down, we take care of everything. And a couple of nights ago, we were walking down to feed the cows, and we laid down in the pasture and looked at the stars for like 10 minutes. And, that was awesome. So I love doing that stuff with my kids. It's a super important part of the whole process, is getting them involved with it and teaching them some of those, just work ethic things and taking care of animals. I think there's a lot of value in caring for an animal. There's good and bad with it, and they're learning hopefully a lot of life lessons through that process.
So Jake, a couple of things. My New York and tri-state, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area audience, and many other agents and listeners around the country, they're wondering, how old is your daughter, and what does this month of responsibility of taking care of the cows and chickens? Give me a brief job description. Let me know who's built for it. What's involved? What are we doing?
Yeah, she's 9. And it's pretty simple. We go down there. We have one cow that she is in the barn, so we got to clean her stall every night. Give her hay, give her some grain, make sure her water's full. It's cold right now, so we have to drag a hose down, water her, drag it out, blow the hose out so it doesn't freeze. And then we go down out to the pasture and we feed those cows too. So kind of the same thing, check their water. They have an automatic water, so that one's a little bit easier. But give them some grain, make sure they got plenty of hay, and then go take care of the chickens. Kind of the same thing, water, feed, gather the eggs, and it's nice. I mean, we've been pretty bit blessed that hasn't been too cold here. So it's just, it's usually a nice, 30-40 minute process that we can do together.
I got it. Great time together. So thank you for letting me and everybody hang out with you in Iowa. Gave me a great visual of what's involved there. So let's jump back into the agency. You mentioned in the intro that your agency is 3 blocks down from where you coach college wrestling at. Question, with you being in a smaller community, and I don't know if where you're at is a smaller community, but do you get a lot of walk-in traffic? Do people come to see you where you are because they know you, and is that the way of doing business in Sioux Falls?
Yeah. So we do have a lot of local and walk-in traffic. Again, Jeff being an Allstate agent for 39 years, he started in the Sears building as an employee, and then he had this agency here. I think he's been in this location for maybe 10 years. It's just a well-known spot, right? And the Morningside area, that's where we're located in Sioux City. Just it's kind of that small town community feel. Sioux City's not big in general. It's 80, 90,000. Siouxland's 140. So it's not a huge city, but that local and community involvement, those things are very important. And yeah, we do get a lot of walk-in traffic. A lot of customers come in, and one of the most beneficial things about buying this agency is one of the employees, Dawn, she was with Jeff for 16 years before Jeff sold it to me, and Dawn stayed. So people feel extremely comfortable with her. She's phenomenal at what she does, and that's been a huge part of the process too, is having her on board to continue to bridge those relationships with the current customers. But yeah, we're deeply connected to the community. Do get a lot of walk-in traffic, and yeah, just super blessed with that. I mean, those are great relationships that I've been able to become a part of.
So let's talk about the community. What are some of the things you're involved in the community?
Youth sports is a big one for me. Just that's an easy one because my kids are in it. So sponsor youth sports and a youth wrestling coach now with my son's youth team. But my kids play pretty much every sport. So we're involved with a lot of that and do some sponsorship stuff there. I'm a big fan of Habitat for Humanity. We support Habitat for Humanity. That was something I was involved with when I was coaching wrestling. They loved getting 30 guys as free labor. So, that was like my inroad. We would help them clean houses, paint houses. Now it's more of a sponsorship role. And, we'd love to get involved with some of that stuff, but they've kind of gone more to a contractor model where they use contractors a little bit more than volunteer labor. But that's my favorite one that I'm involved with. We do some stuff with a couple of the charities, but I'm a big Habitat for Humanity person. And I think it pairs well with the fact that, Allstate's all about protecting the home. And so I kind of like that parallel too, that we're building some homes and we're protecting people's homes as, an insurance agent as well.
Doesn't get you any better. I have the feeling that you probably are pretty good with the hammer and a nail and a screwdriver. Phil, I got a feeling that you could be pretty helpful if they would let you. So let me ask you a couple of questions. Back in the insurance business, you came from wrestling, coaching, community to insurance. How hard is it for someone in the tri-state area of Nebraska, Iowa, and South Dakota that might be listening to this podcast and say, this sounds pretty cool, I'd love to work in this industry? How hard is it to get licensed and get started in the industry?
So the licensing part, I always tell people you could get it done in 2 weeks, but I've had people that take 6 weeks. So it's just kind of dependent on the individual. You have to study, take a couple tests. But yeah, I think passing the test is probably the easier part. Once you get into it, really understanding what your company is looking for as a risk is important, and just connecting with the right people that Allstate wants to insure. I think that was something that was a learning curve for me to understand what our ideal customer was. And, I'll talk to anybody and try and help them, but, not everybody's a great fit. So understanding that and trying to get in, and connect with the people that Allstate wants to, take on as risk was important for me, to understand that. And then I would say the other thing is just being open to, any connection that you can. I think I came from the coaching world where coaches were super open to connecting with other coaches and just helping our athletes grow, and I loved connecting with other coaches. One of my biggest things, I went down and I did a coaching convention, and I was with University of Missouri's head coach Brian Smith, and he taught me so much, and so I kind of brought that same mindset to the insurance world. And Mitch was one of the first people I reached out, and Mitch was like, "Get down here, come visit my office." And so I went down there with a couple of my employees, and we sat with Mitch for a day, and like my mind exploded. But like Mitch gave me so much gold that I came back and implemented in my business. So I think anytime, people that want to get in here, like, be open to connecting with other agents and find an agent that you connect with that can help you understand the industry, protect people the right way. That's one thing I love about Mitch. The guy has incredible integrity, and he wants
Amazing.
to do it the right way. And yeah, that was awesome. And I want to do it like Mitch does too, so I was blessed with the ability to connect with Mitch early. And that was huge for me. And I've met a bunch of other agents along the way that have helped me equally. And I've Tim Dieter, I'm sure you know him. He's been an awesome mentor. And Tim's been gracious with me, when I make mistakes and my team makes mistakes. Tim's been awesome about, hey, like, that's a mistake. Don't do it that way,
Nice.
and he's been awesome with saying, like, again, just gracious with me in that, not just throwing me the coals when I do something wrong. So I've been super blessed with people like that around. And again, anybody getting into it, just be open to those relationships. There might be some people out there that aren't that, inviting, but like, don't take that as every agent, right? Go find somebody that is inviting and wants to collaborate with you and help you grow.
I like the use of the word gracious there. So let's draw some parallels between your coaching experience and your leading an agency experience. As a coach, you're recruiting, you're building a team, you're teaching how to wrestle the right way, working on the fundamentals every day, stay low, strong base, be in good shape, all of those things. What parallels have you seen in running an insurance agency as it relates to recruiting and hiring?
Yeah, I mean, so similar. And I think people always say, like, oh geez, insurance, like, that's a huge change, and it is, but the people are still the number one thing. Building a culture is still the number one thing. And so that is basically just do the same thing I was, right? Value the people in your agency above everything. Make sure that you protect your culture and don't bring on people that aren't going to value that culture and build it. I think that's been incredibly important to me. And, I think similar to sports, like, culture wins, right? So if you have a great culture and you have high expectations and you allow people to raise up to those, then I think good things happen. And also be gracious with people too within your agency. Like, my agents have made mistakes, and as long as you have strong culture and like, they know the expectation and they're willing to adapt and adjust and become better, then like, mistakes are they're not going to kill you. They're going to be a bump in the road that hopefully you can overcome. And like, just keep believing in them, I think. And like, on the opposite side, like, if they're not part of the culture, then whether they're crushing it or not, it maybe not be a great fit and you need to move on.
That's an incredible lesson. I'm a huge sports fan. I was not an accomplished athlete. My sons were all very accomplished athletes. My oldest son went on to coach college and still assistant coach with high school basketball today. In sports, couple of minutes per round in a wrestling match, you got to give immediate feedback. right? You got to give immediate feedback. If I'm doing something wrong, I'm getting thrown around the mat, you've got to correct me in the middle of the game. And insurance, sales calls, service calls, things of that nature. How have you applied that, but at an office temperament level and not an athletic temperament level where it's okay? I'll make you laugh a little bit. I draw this parallel. I have a diverse team. I have more women than men on my team, but I tell them, I said, I watch sports and I see teammates yell at each other in the middle of the game. Jake, I'm wide open. Pass me the ball. Jake, you missed me. I was right there. And then, we pat each other and we keep playing. That's the culture I desire to bring. I want us to be able to give feedback, correction. I love your use of the word gracious. How does that live in your agency? You come from a world where you know that you have to play through mistakes. How have you done that in insurance where maybe it's a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more eggshells?
Yeah. I think approaching it with a mindset of believing in them is the number one thing. And, they should be able to feel that too. And, I read a book when I was a coach called Generation IY, I believe it was, where it just talks about, kids coming in today need to know that you believe in them and that you trust them before they'll trust you. And I think, like I have a young team, and so I try and give them that feeling that I trust you and I believe in you, but I need you to reciprocate that and trust me too, and I'll give you that from the start, but you got to believe that me too. And when I tell you, hey, we have to do it this way, you also have to believe in me and trust that I'm looking out for what's best for you. And I always look at it like their goals and their success will lead to mine. It was the same thing coaching wrestling. I wasn't ever trying to win a national title for myself. I wasn't trying to win duels. I was trying to get 10 guys to win a match. And
Yes.
if 10 guys win a match, I'll go undefeated,
Yeah.
So just having that mindset of, and so a big thing for me is just understanding my team's goals and making sure we're going after those, and making sure they know that I believe in them. I want them to reach their goals, and together we're going to reach, both of our goals. So the immediate feedback part, that's probably something that I'm trying to grow in, because as my team grows, that's becoming more difficult. My first year I had 3 producers, and that wasn't that hard. I could do that. I actually just had a conversation with Tim about agency structure, and because I'm getting into that mindset of like, I can't give immediate feedback like I want to anymore. So I need to build out an agency structure so these people are getting immediate feedback, they're getting coaching. And so, yeah, again, leaning on Tim a little bit for that, but it's important. And, you got to have people that are coachable too. I think sometimes that's something that can be learned. But sometimes people don't want to be coached either. So you got to just, again, protect that culture from that too.
That's the beauty of your wrestling experiences. Probably no better attribute in any of your athletes and being coachable. People ask me all the time, Kevin, what do you look for in people? The answer is always the same: coachability and accountability. Do you like being held accountable? Yes. But what does that mean? You're going to make mistakes, and I'm going to bring it to your attention. And are you okay with that? Do you want to be better? Do you want to be good, better, best, and don't let that get in the way of being your very best? There's a saying with that, but I just messed that up pretty pretty royally, but I'm sure you know exactly what I mean. You have been a phenomenal guest for every new and young age. And one question I didn't ask that I should: there are some young athletes in the Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota area, and the dream is coming to an end. There are some LeBrons of the wrestling world out there that have more days in front of them doing something different than what they've been doing today. What would you say to them about getting into the insurance field? Would you say this is a good career for some young athlete pivoting from wrestling, volleyball, whatever their sport might be? Do you think this is a good place where they can keep their competitive juices flowing and really interact in a team environment?
Yeah, I think it's an amazing spot. And, I've always said, like, I want that to be my competitive edge against every other agency, is I'm getting like these Morningside College, that's where I coach, Morningside University athletes, into my agency, because I just believe in their, like you said, their commitment, their ability to be coachable. And that's really what I've wanted to build my agency on. But it's been hard to recruit them because everybody's trying to recruit them, because they all know that they're phenomenal opportunities, to have them as employees. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a phenomenal spot. Like, my big thing is we're going to get you a lot of opportunity to learn and grow. And if you're somebody that desires that, then I think, it's an awesome spot to be. You get to connect with so many people and build some phenomenal relationships. And, I think I don't like to say that there isn't a ton of other opportunities for them out there, but like I love it. I think it was a great move for me. And, I'm kind of the mindset of like, I don't know why anybody else would love it, and I know not everybody does, but like, I just don't know what there isn't to love about it, because it's a blast. But I love people and I love talking to people. So, it fits me really well. And I also think, I tell some of the coaches there, like, some of your assistants should come work for me, from 8 to 4 o'clock and then go practice.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's some flexibility here too. So let's collaborate, and I can help pay them a decent salary, and then they can coach for you for what I know coaches get paid, because it ain't much.
I love the blend, and I understand the dynamic between those worlds, the hard work that you do and the compensation that doesn't necessarily reward and define, especially at the youth level where you're at with your son and other people's kids. What you pour into kids, I could do a monologue on all the coaches that poured into my kids, and I would still leave somebody out. I wouldn't do a very good job. Jake, we're coming down the final end of the pike. I'm clear that you're an early morning guy. I'm clear that you're doing everything that needs to be done on the farm before you dive into insurance business. I got that the evening starts with the walk with the kids, and you're doing the duties that need to be done to take care of the cows and chickens. But after everything is said and done, how does Jake Stevenson wind down at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think just being outside is a huge one, right? Walking down to the pasture, that's a big one for me. Just good to get some fresh air, and even when it's cold, like, I value a nice cold night where it just stings a little bit when you're breathing. I like that. I think that kind of centers me and helps me wind down. But like, when the night's over, putting my kids to bed, and sitting down with my wife is a big one. We typically, half hour to an hour together with no kids is really valuable for us. I like to read, so.
What are you reading now? What are you reading? Anything good?
I don't like to read anything really good, because I use it to fall asleep. But right now I'm reading Lord of the Rings, and I picked it because it was super long. I knew I'd have something to read for a while. I already know what's going to happen. I've seen the movies before, but I was like, it's a classic book. I should read that. So I try and read something, older that's not going to get me fired up and keep me awake for an hour or two. So something that I already know what's going to happen.
I love it. Well, that's a heck of a way to wind down. I always like to close my podcast like this. It's called Wind Down with Kev. I started it because it helped me relax during the pandemic when I couldn't get out, see people and network. It gave me the ability to have great conversations like this from the safety from my home or a studio that I'm at today. But it's also the Dream Chaser podcast. I'm a dream pusher. I love to push people to be their best and to chase their dreams. And I like my guests to close out with some encouraging words. So I want you to speak specifically to someone in the tri-state area that may want to make a move into this career, maybe another business venture. I want you to give them some encouraging words.
I mean, my biggest thing is you just got to believe in yourself relentlessly. And that is what I want for my kids. That's what I want for people. I believed in every single one of my wrestlers relentlessly. I believe in the people in my office relentlessly. And I think people need to believe in themselves relentlessly, because there's so much capability out there, and find something you're super passionate about. And that's it. Like, I love waking up and going to work. I've loved to wake up and go to work for the past, 16 years, whatever I've been in the workforce, 17, because I've always been in a place that I'm super passionate. And I think that's just everything. And I've seen too, like once somebody believes in somebody, again, sometimes somebody else got to believe in you first, right? But if you believe in somebody relentlessly and they believe in themselves relentlessly, man, they get pretty excited about what they're able to accomplish. And that's the most rewarding thing, when somebody, does something that maybe they wouldn't have believed in themselves, but with the right people around them, and then, just incremental growth, they can accomplish it.
I love it. People, you heard it here. Jake Stevenson, Iowa, South Dakota, Nebraska. Let's take away those key words that he left with us. Not only just believe in yourself, you've heard that before, but the other adjective he added was believe in yourself relentlessly. So if you like this podcast, you love this content, please click the subscribe button, the notification button, so you can be notified when awesome content like this comes out and we can keep it going. Big shout out. Can't close out without saying a big thank you to my sponsors, Canopy Connect and Carol Media, for all of your digital needs. Thank you again. Be great today. Believe in yourself. Be relentless and find something you're super passionate about. Jake Stevenson.
Thank you, Kevin. It was fun.